Oh, what's going on, GameLeap? This is Eags, and in today's upload, we have the tier list for patch 12.16, so the changes, they got released today on Twitter, so we'll be going through the champions who are going to get changed, and maybe some champions who might be getting indirectly buffed or nerfed. So what's the landscape going to look like for 12.16? It's going to be super fun to go through this, so make sure you stick around for the whole video. But just before we do get into the video, one thing you guys have to do before you get into your next game is to download the Porofessor app linked in the description, because it allows you to quickly import the best room page used from the best players in the world on the champion you're picking. You don't have to make the room page, just one click of a button and bang, you're ready to go. But that's not all, because the app also allows you to scout your opponents, and the app will give you their stats, how well they play their champion, so you can know more about your opponent than they know about themselves. And the app also gives you an in-game overlay, so you can compare your CS and your kill participation to your rank, or even challenger players like Faker. And there's a reason why 3 million people have downloaded this free application, guys. It's because it works. So get around it in Season 12, those links are in the description. Now, like always, we will begin by talking about the most OP top laners and the worst top laners for 12.16. So as you can see, Aatrox, Darius, Olaf, Shen, these four champions not changing from the current 12.15 patches being the most broken. So Aatrox with Eclipse, Darius because he's Darius, Olaf because he's Olaf, and Shen because you've got a million builds that are really OP. Now, as far as the actual champions in the top lane getting changed, well, the first one who's going to cause a lot of commotion, this is Aurelia. So your armor per level increasing. So you're going to be tankier during the late laning phase and during the mid to late game, and your base magic resist is also going up. Doesn't really matter too much for the top lane because there isn't too much magic damage going around, but still, this is going to be useful. But if you're going to pick Aurelia in the top lane, I'd really just recommend picking her as a counter pick. Blind picking her leaves you open to champions like Tryndamere, who just absolutely destroy you, so do be a little bit careful just blind picking her, but she's going to be even stronger as a counter pick in 12.16. That's why she's in the underrated tier. Now, another champion getting buffed, this is Jay, so your base armor is kind of getting reverted just a little bit, so you're getting a little bit more armor in the early game, 2 in fact, and your melee's Q bonus AD ratio is going up 10%, so this means that in the mid to late game, as you start to stack that attack damage with Eclipse, Mirror Mana, and whatever else you're building, your hammer is going to deal more damage, and also your ultimate's damage bonus AD ratio when you switch forms, this is going up from 25% to 30%. I think really good Jace players will make use of this, so as a result of all this, Jace is also, just like Aurelia, in underrated. Might take a little bit of time to really master the champion, but he's definitely going to be a bit of a pain to deal with. But one champion you can pick into Jace who also got buffed, this is Malphite. So Malphite, your passive's cooldown is going down in the earlier stages of a game from 10 seconds to 8 seconds. Now it's still going down to 6 seconds in the late game, but this is really nice for Malphite because without your passive, well, you just feel useless and really squishy. So having this up more often during that laning phase, which is really when you're most vulnerable, this is a really nice buff. Also, your W's cooldown is going down, so it's no longer going to be a flat 12 seconds, so it's going from 12 seconds to 10 seconds. And you might be saying, but I maxed my W last on Malphite. Well, actually, it's probably better to max your W second, even at the moment, and definitely next patch because of this buff. So that's why Malphite is in B tier. Might not be the most OP champion, but definitely good to pick into some top laners. And that's really it for the top lane, guys. Nothing else is really changing. Just make sure you don't play Ryze, and we'll go through some of the other underrated champions in a future video, so make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss it. Now, heading into the jungle here, most broken champions, these as well aren't really changing. So we have Bel'Veth, Diana, Fiddlesticks, and Red Kayn Rast. Now, as for Bel'Veth, she's here because of that extra attack range, the damage reduction. I don't know, it's just Bel'Veth. Her kit is just so broken. Diana is here, despite getting adjusted, and most of the time these adjustments mean these champions are getting nerfed. So what's happening to Diana? Your base damage and your passive going down, but the actual ratio in it is going up 5%, and your E's AP ratio is going up as well. This is to try to deter Diana players from going Sunfire, but to be honest, I don't really think it's going to discourage you guys from going Sunfire at all. In fact, it's probably even better because Sunfire is the only tank item you get. After Sunfire, you can get Demonic Embrace, you can get Zhonya's Hourglass, you're still getting Nash's Tooth Right, you're still getting a lot of AP, so you can actually make use of these buffs while still going Sunfire. So it just sounds like a straight up buff for Diana. That's why she's in broken, alongside Fiddlesticks because of the buffs recently to him, and Red Kayn because the meta is still about durability. Red Kayn just frosts it. Now, as far as the rest of the tier list goes, well, champions who are actually getting changed in the jungle, well, the only other one apart from Diana is Poppy. So what's happening for Poppy is that your Q's monster cap damage is just going down by 20 at each rank. So this means you'll be dealing less damage to those monsters, so your clear speed is going to be affected by this. This is important for a champion who doesn't really have the most amazing clear in the game, so this is certainly going to slow you down. That's why Poppy's dropping all the way down to B tier. But as you can see, guys, in the jungle at the moment, in this tier list, there are so many good champions. So if you look in S tier, we have over 10 champs you can pick from. We have Master Yi, we have Nunu with the Balmy Cinder being really cheap, helps your clear speed enormously, Rek'Sai, Trundle, Volibear with Chemtag. There's so many options here, so don't feel as if you have to lock yourselves into the foremost broken champions in 12.16. Now, heading to the mid lane, we've already talked about Aurelia. She is in the most broken because of the magic resist buff buff, most of the time you're going to be playing against magic damage champions. We also have to consider as well the armor per level increase. This helps you as well against these champions because some of their damage, if not most of it, is going to be in the form of auto attacks. So the armor is really going to help as well when you're copying it from those ranged champions. It also doesn't help, right? Like last patch, second wind getting nerfed, health pots, refillables getting nerfed. This means that you won't be able to regenerate as much HP anymore, but these buffs are going to help you out during the laning phase. Now alongside Aurelia, we have Silas. Pretty standard stuff like a lot of the other OP champions. He's just innately broken. And next to him, we have Vex. Because of those Q buffs a couple of patches ago, the Q cooldown going down to 4 seconds at rank 5. So at level 9, 4-second Q, you're kidding. And because the extra AP ratio in your Q, you one-shot minion waves, you one-shot champions. So if you want to play Vex, now is the time to pick her. No nerfs in 12-16. And that's the same for Zed as well. And Zed has really taken off. Well, the buffs last patch helped him. So the E, the actual energy cost going down, this is great. And also the W being max range, that's really nice as well. But Zed also benefits greatly from Scorch getting the buff it got in 12-15. Because with just one WEQ combo, you can get the enemy mid laner super low, providing you hit your shurikens of course, but it's a great buff to early to mid game Zed, and that's when you can really take over games. Because if you can get a kill during the early laning phase now, which is more achievable, with the Scorch buff and with the E buff in particular, Zed is just in a great position, and that's why he's an S+ tier for pretty much every elo if you look at those stats websites. Now elsewhere in the mid lane, we have Zoe who's getting a buff, so the W minion drop rate, you'll be getting those drops of those summoner spells of those items more often, which is really nice. And also your E's damage, the base damage is going up by 10, and also the ratio in your E is also going up by 5%. These are enormous buffs for a champion at the moment who's doing really well anyway. And the reason she's an underrated is just because more people need to abuse her. Now the other mid laner, well, not your traditional mid laner, but Tristana is an underrated here because her Q's attack speed, so the attack speed you get when you press your Q, this is going up by 15% at each rank. So 1 point in Q, 2 points, all the way up to 5, you're getting 15% more attack speed. This is really good for Tristana because when you jump in, you want that burst damage. Extra attack speed, this is going to allow you to get off that explosive charge quicker, and it's going to make you even more of a lane bully. So if you see a mobile mage in the mid lane, Tristana is one of the best picks into them, so you might consider putting her in your champion pool for 12-16 as well. Now as for the bot lane changes, guys, we'll start with the AD carries, and there are actually a few AD carries getting changed. So we talked about Tristana, the Q attack speed going up. This is nice. This is why Tristana is an A tier, a very solid champion. But if we look at underrated for a second, we have a couple of champions here who are getting some buffs. So the first of these, this being Caitlyn, your passive's AD ratio is increasing in the late game. So this is really good for Caitlyn because in the late game, well, you're not really dealing enough damage at the moment to really make it count, because champions, since they got all that armor and magic resist per level, well, specifically armor in Caitlyn's case, you're not shredding them as much as perhaps you should be. So this is going to help in that regard. And also your ultimate, this is going to deal more damage based on the crit chance you have, which is also a welcome buff. That's why Caitlyn's in underrated. And because champions, well, they just don't have as much sustain anymore, Caitlyn being that lane bully, that poke champion in the bot lane, and she's getting played a lot in high elo at the moment with really good win rates, I think she needs to be played a lot more, and that's why she's underrated. And alongside Caitlyn, we have Kai'Sa. So your passive on hit damage is increasing in the late game, which is awesome because you are oriented around the mid to late game. And also the damage you do for each stack you have from your passive on an enemy champion, this is increasing as well during the later stage of a game, which is just great news. Also your Q's AP ratio is going up from 25% to 30%, and your ultimate's AP ratio is also going up, but this time from 90% to 120%. So this means that if you're building something like Nash's Tooth and other magic items, you are just going to have more power. And remember, Nash's is giving you on hit, synergizes really nicely with your passive. It's just important, guys, when you pick Kai'Sa, you really want to engage support, and those supports aren't that amazing at the moment. So you might have to be a little bit careful. Look at your support. If they're playing some sort of Enchantress, Kai'Sa is probably not the best AD carry you can pick, but if they're picking something like a Blitzcrank, like a Leona, Kai'Sa's value in 12-16 going to be very high. Now, apart from Caitlyn and Kai'Sa, well, what other AD carries have got changed? Well, there's only one, this being Draven, who is still going to be broken in 12-16. Lots of Draven mains out there will be screaming at this video because your Q's base damage is getting nerfed by 5 at each rank. Now, this doesn't mean that Draven is automatically going to go from broken tier all the way down to trash tier, because you're still going to be that dominant lane bully, and because so many champions in the game, so many AD carries anyway, well, they're not really exactly strong at the moment. Like, who are we scared of? Let's be honest. Maybe Samira or Nyla, who are in broken tier alongside Draven, but apart from that, Draven is still going to dominate a lot of lanes. And because of the amount of gold you get when you get your adoration stacks cashed in, and because of Eclipse giving you more movement speed, because of Essence Reaver as well, it's a really big spike and it's pretty cheap, Draven is still going to be one of the top ADCs. Now, the last role we have to talk about, guys, for this tier list is, of course, the support role. Now, as far as the supports go, we have Zyra, who's getting a buff, so your E's post-cast lockouts. When you cast your E, sometimes you have to stand still, right? You can't actually move or anything. Well, instead of scaling up to 0.4 seconds, this is actually going to be a flat 0.15 seconds. This is going to be nice for Zara because you're going to dodge more skill shots and actually get in positions. Like if you land your grasping root, you need to get in range to land your ultimate maybe or your Q. This is going to help. And she was in the broken tier list for 12-15. This just means she's 100% in the broken tier list for 12-16. Maybe we should make our own Zara tier above broken. But yeah, super strong champion, just like Blitzcrank, Janna, Renata. These three champions were Blitzcrank because of the Q and ultimate buffs, Janna because she's Janna, and Renata because she's Renata. How can we not put these in the most broken? And the other support getting changed in 12-16, guys, this is Yuumi. So your ease movement speed you get, this is actually scaling less off each 100 AP you have. So in the mid to late game, this will affect you. And also your ease cooldown is going to scale up to 10 seconds, so no longer 8 seconds. So for Yuumi, because of these nerfs, she's dropping down to B tier. And we should consider here as well that Evan Shroud, which is the only mythic getting changed in 12-16, it's actually getting buffed. So as far as the damage amp goes, it's going from 9% to 10%, and the damage amp duration lasting an extra second. This is really nice if you're playing one of those CC supports, so something like Leona, like Rel with that AoE engage. This is nice. So maybe we're going to see a bit of a shift in the support meta, probably not, but we will have to wait and see. And guys, those were the tier lists for 12-16. Any comments, questions, thoughts, leave them in the comments section. If you want these videos to continue, make sure you leave a like down below. And until our next season 12 upload, this has been a... Peace.